Good morning, folks, and welcome back to another Ricoh GR102 episode. And as you can see from the title, this is all about the difference between hyperfocal focusing and zone focusing. I recently did a zone focusing video focused on the Fuji X-Half, but now we're going to use both cameras, the GR3, the Ricoh GR3 and the Fuji X-Half, to take a look at the difference between hyperfocal and zone focusing and where they would be useful. Okay, so let's just start out with this. This homepage is called the DOF Simulator, and it looks like this on my screen because I am in the mobile version. You can click on this button here and switch between the mobile version and the full desktop version, and I think it's just a little better organized when you take the mobile version like this. Now these grey bars, the dark grey bars, these are collapsible. You can click on these and collapse and uncollapse them. Okay, but we're interested in this down here. It's a really good graphic that demonstrates both zone focusing and hyperfocal distances and what they actually mean. Now to test this, you need to make some settings on your camera. So let's start out with an APS-C sensor, and that you would change that here. So you down here under camera configuration, camera sensor size, then you can choose an APS-C and just a standard APS-C. This is what the Ricoh GR3 uses, and it's also works for the the 1, the 2, the 3 and the 4, because they're all APS-C size sensors. They have different resolutions, but the sensor size is the same, and they use the same 18.3 millimeter lens. Okay, so those two factors are important. You select your sensor size there, and you select your lens size here. Now you can type directly into this field. So we say the focal length is 18.3. And I know that people talk about the Ricoh GR3 being a 28, but that's the equivalent. And there you can see here, it's actually written the equivalent of 28 on a full frame sensor. So 18.3, that's what we want. Now, we're going to go down here and we're going to move the aperture value. And if you look down here, you can see that when we focus on something which is 2.5 meters away, I'll be using meters for this, but just bear in mind that 1 meter is about 3 feet, 2 meters is about 6 feet, and so 2.5 meters is about 8 feet. Okay, so we're going to move this slider about. Now these are settings that you can actually set on the Ricoh GR3. You can definitely set 1.5 meters, which is 150 centimeters, and you can set a 2 meter mark like that, and you can set a 2.5 meter mark. Now down in the graphic down here, let's change the f-stop value to 5.6, say. You can say when you focus at 2.5 meter, that is the red line right on your model down here, or your subject. Okay, now this dark line that extends, this dark patch, this is your focus zone. So this is zone focusing, and this is where your acceptable focus starts and where it ends. And outside here and in front here, these will be out of focus. Okay, but this red line here where you have actually set the focus, this will be tack sharp. Okay, so there is a difference. There are 3 focus zones here. This is tack sharp, this is acceptable focus, that to the naked eye, unless you're really pixel peeping, this will all look nice and sharp and in focus, and all this outside here will be out of focus. Okay, so that you might be considering that this is not really a deep depth of field, and it isn't really. You can see the total, it starts here at 1.39 meters. That's this blue line here. That's where your focus starts, and it ends at 12 meters. Now that's when you're at f5.6. If we bump that up to f6.3, now the focus extends all the way out to 23 meters, and we go one more to f7.1, which is available on the Ricoh. Then you can see the focus goes now all the way out to infinity, and it starts at just 1.25 meters from the camera. So we're going to take a look at that in a minute on the camera, and then we're going to see what 1.2 meters looks like. And if you use this method, then everything you shoot, if you stay at that focus distance there, set your snap focus up to that, set your camera up to snap, either when you press the shutter button or if you press the touch screen, and keep it on f7.1. If it's a nice day, lots of light, then you're just going to get everything in focus from 1.25 meters all the way out to infinity. Now that's zone focusing. The alternative is to set the camera up for hyperfocal distance focusing. And that's basically the same thing, but with hyperfocal focusing, you're actually always shooting for getting the maximum depth of field, and this is popular with landscape photographers. And what you actually do is you pick a hyperfocal distance. In this case, for these settings, for this lens, this sensor and this aperture combination, it's actually telling you down here on this scale that the hyperfocal distance is 2.47 meters. That's just in front of this red line, 3 centimeters in front. And that will give you a focus, an acceptable focus from 1.24 meters. That's just about there, and all the way out to infinity. That is the concept of hyperfocal distance. You set a focus that is calculated. You can't just pick a random focus. I can't say, okay, I'm going to focus at 2 and I know exactly where that will be. It's a little different. But what you do is you set a hyperfocal distance, and you will know that your focus will start from just about half of what you set. Okay, so in this case, this is just almost 2.5 meters, and so that means that your focused in distance will actually start at 1.25. And so there you have it. That was your hyperfocal distance. Hyperfocal distance doesn't create a zone. It actually goes straight for a close focus all the way out to infinity. And like I said, popular with landscape photographers, but also very, very useful for street photography. All you've got to do is be careful not to start taking shots of something that is under 1 meter, because they will be out of focus. Okay, so don't start shooting things that are this close here, inside this light blue area, because they will be out of focus. But everything from here to here will be in focus. So let's go and check out now the Fuji X-Half, and we go up here to do that. Now the X-Half has got roughly a 1-inch sensor, and then we're going to put in the actual lens size on the Fuji X-Half, which is a 10.8, like that. And you'll get the most out of all of these lenses by choosing an f-stop somewhere in the middle. The Fuji starts at 2.8 and ends at 11, so we're going to choose 5.6 here. And you can see at f5.6, if I shoot at the model of anywhere just above 2 meters, then the hyperfocal distance of this camera, of the Fuji X-Half, this will be focused at anything focused above 2 meters will give me a hyperfocal distance and a depth of field that extends from less than 1 meter away all the way out to infinity. So that's great. If I wanted more light in, I could bring that down to say f4, and now you can see we are getting a zone focus here. It's not going all the way out to infinity, but this is the zone focus, and it's telling me here that if I wanted hyperfocal a hyperfocal distance at f4, then I would have to set my focus above 2.5 meters, around 2.7. So let's do that. We'll bring that up. There's 2.7 and 2.8. So like I've been doing with street shooting with the X-Half, setting the focus around 3 meters will get me the hyperfocal distance, and that will extend from 1.36 meters all the way out to infinity. So really easy. And I've been shooting at f5.6, so if I bring that up to where I've been actually using it, f5.6, you can see now that my hyperfocal distance will start below 1 meter, and it will be sharp from there all the way out to infinity if I keep my focus just below the 3 meter mark. So let's say 2.5 meters. And this, surprisingly enough, when you use film camera mode, it's even easier to do this because there are fixed distances. I think there are a set of 4, but this is the difference. Hyperfocal is always going to try to get you the deepest depth of field all the way out to infinity, and zone focusing gives you a chunk of a zone that is in focus, and maybe something will be in focus beyond that, and maybe it won't, depending on the aperture you've chosen. So we're going to go over to the cameras now and take a look at just setting these up. It's very easy with the Ricoh because it's just snap focus, and it gives you a set of predetermined focus distances to choose from. Okay, so here we are with the Ricoh GR3. I'm just going to switch this on here, and if I go into my menu here, I've got normal and autofocus set up, where I select autofocus, point at an object, focus on it, take a shot. See the camera there's in focus. That was just doing a half press to focus and then taking the shot. But now I'm going to go and check out my snap distance. That's at 3.5 meters now, and that means when I do a full press snap, and I can just show you the scale here by setting the focus mode to snap focus like this, then you can see the focus. It's just somewhere above 1 meter, about 1.10 meters, all the way out to infinity when I am at f7.1. I hope you can see that. And that's perfect. That is perfect for, and you can, this is both zone focusing and hyperfocal distance focusing, because it is going all the way out to infinity when I select that that distance there, 3.5 meters. We can change that and set my snap distance closer, 2.5, and it says here that it's still going all the way out from just about 1 meter all the way out to infinity there, so that's fine. If I want to have the best of both worlds and have autofocus on the button and snap in another way, then I can go back, change my focus back to select AF, so now I can half press, focus and shoot like that. And now I can use the touch screen. I could also do full press snap. That FS there means that full press snap is activated, and if I skip the half press and just go straight to pushing the button right the way down like that, then it has taken a shot at the hyperfocal or the zone focus settings that I've created, and it just takes a shot regardless of whether something will be in focus. Now this is fine, this full press snap, but I prefer to do it a little more gently and a little more discreet, and so in that case I don't use full press snap in that way. I keep the autofocus on that button, or I do back button focusing, but I like to set up my touch screen, and this button activates my touch screen options here. Here you've got lots of different options here. You can move your autofocus point, you can move your autofocus point and make the camera force it to focus where you've just touched. This one is autofocus, point and shoot, but this one just activates full press snap at your current distance. So if I choose that one now and then press on the screen just gently, you see it takes a shot. So regardless of something being in focus or in front of it there, it will just take the shot when I touch the screen, and I've still got proper autofocus on that button. Okay, so that is how you do it with the Ricoh, and that is both hyperfocal distance focusing and snap focusing, which is of course zone focusing. Okay, now we don't have that luxury on this little guy. This has zone focusing because we can manual focus on the lens, but it doesn't have any form of snap focus option. So we're just going to switch the camera on here, and we are going to swipe up from the bottom, and this here, A, means aperture priority, and I am on aperture 5.6, which is great for this camera and sensor, and I am in manual focus. And you can see this is the Fuji quick menu. Just touch that and you can say continuous autofocus, single autofocus, or manual autofocus, or manual focus, sorry. And that is what we're using here. You hit the X over here to get out of that. And now we're in manual focus. And all you have to do is turn the lens ring there, the focusing ring on the lens, and this will get you your focusing options up. So we've been through this before with the video I did called zone focusing with the X-Half. But what about the hyperfocal distance? Well, just like we just looked at in the video, when you set this one to just about 2.5 meters at f5.6, that is a fantastic hyperfocal distance, and anything from about 1.1 meter all the way out to infinity will be in acceptable focus. And you don't really need to trust this scale back here, because you can see at f5.6 the scale is stopping short. When I focus on 3 meters there, the scale is stopping short of infinity, but believe me, it's the scale that is off. And this has been a problem with other Fuji cameras, that they haven't quite nailed snap shooting or zone focusing like Ricoh have with the GR series. Fuji's do tend to have a scale that is not accurate, and it will drift. So when you're out doing hyperfocal shooting with this camera, then the best thing to do is just keep it on f5.6. Make sure you've got light that's adequate, and just once in a while just check your focus, make sure you're on or around 3 meters, and you're good to go. Everything will be sharp. As a bonus, now we're going to go into film camera mode here just quickly, just to give you a sneak preview of this. I'm not going to actually use it. I'm just going to select this. We're in no date stamp, still aperture priority 36. I'm not going to keep this, but just going to say start here. Now, as you can see here, now we've got the focus scale on the bottom, which is even easier to keep an eye on. So when you go out shooting pictures with this one, you're just going to set your focus scale there, 3 meters, 10 feet, bingo. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. Everything will be sharp from 1.1 meters and out. And this is your hyperfocal shooting with film camera mode. And it's really, really easy to do it like that. And actually, it's a lot of fun using film camera mode. When I was in Mallorca a few weeks back, I took this as my only camera, and I actually ran off 5 rolls of film like this, of digital film, and it was a lot of fun. And it's really exciting to look at the images you get back. And as long as you use a smart method like this, and you can also switch between autofocus and manual focus on the back here as you're shooting, which is a bonus. And yeah, it is a lot of fun. It really is. It's I kind of underestimated. I thought it was too gimmicky at the start, but it's actually a lot of fun doing it this way. So that is hyperfocal and zone focusing for 2 popular cameras, 2 cameras that are very, very easy to shoot street with because of the smaller sensors and the wide lenses. It's a different story when you start getting up to a 40mm lens or a 40mm equivalent like the GR3X. But check out the homepage, DOF Simulator, and you can get that information out of it. And if you need a hand doing it, just drop a few comments below this video and we'll take a look at that. Now, we are just going to have a quick look at what these distances actually look like. So here's a good way to guesstimate what 1.1 meters is. It's about 1.5 times the length of this table, or the width of this table, sorry. So here you got the Sony camera at the back there. You can see that I've got a tape measure here,
We're just going to check this out all the way back to there. And there we have from there, that is 1.1 meters. So just don't focus, don't zone focus or don't hyperfocal focus on anything closer than that, and you're good to go. If you need to focus something closer than that, say there on that camera, just switch over to autofocus. Use your shutter button just to give it a half press and focus like that, or switch the camera over from manual focus to autofocus and take a shot there. But on both of these, the GR3 and the Fuji X-Half there, if you stay focusing just outside that distance there, you will be good to go. Okay, and that's it for now. Bye for now.